Everyone kept warning me, hire a divorce lawyer before it's too late. I thought they were overreacting. Until I learned the truth, my wife had already picked hers. And the man helping her destroy my life? Someone I trusted more than my own brother. This isn't just betrayal, it's war. Before I tell you how my entire world flipped, hit like, share this story, and subscribe because what happened to me might save someone else. My name is Eldrin Vaylor, and before everything fell apart, I thought my life was simple, maybe even blessed in a quiet way. I wasn't the kind of man who chased luxury or drama. I woke up every morning grateful for the little things: sunlight slipping through the curtains, the steam from my coffee rising slow, the familiar sound of my wife, Liana, humming in the kitchen. That humming. I didn't know then how much I would miss it. Back then, our mornings felt warm. Liana would tease me for taking too long with my hair. I would tease her for pretending she didn't care about her late-night binge-watching habits. We weren't perfect, but we were predictable, and somehow I believed predictability meant safety. I believed she'd always be there. I believed loyalty was something she understood the same way I did. I remember the way she used to look at me, soft, almost proud. I remember coming home tired from work and finding her asleep on the couch, wrapped in a blanket, the TV glowing faintly in the dark room. I'd lift her gently, carry her to bed, and she'd mumble something that made no sense but felt like love anyway. Those moments were the ones that convinced me I'd chosen right. And maybe that's why everything hurt more later on, because the beginning was real. Or at least I thought it was. I didn't realize how fragile peace can be, how quickly routine can turn into illusion. You don't see the cracks when you trust too deeply. You don't notice the silence growing heavier until someone points out it's not silence, it's distance. Back then, I didn't know my whole world was already shifting beneath my feet. I was living in a calm I didn't know was about to break. I wish I could say the shift happened overnight. Something dramatic, something I could point at and say, this is where it began. But it didn't. It started slowly, so quietly that I almost blamed myself for noticing. The first thing I felt was distance, the kind that doesn't show on the surface, but settles in the air. Between two people who used to understand each other without speaking, Liana began drifting away in small ways. She stopped laughing at my jokes. She stopped asking how my day was. She would sit right next to me, but feel miles away, scrolling through her phone with a half smile she never explained. And I'd be there, pretending it didn't bother me, pretending I wasn't wondering who she was smiling at. Her excuses became routine. Work's insane. I'm just tired. You're overthinking. And the worst, don't make everything about you, Eldrin. That one cut deeper than she knew. Nights became the hardest. She started sleeping late, claiming she had deadlines. I'd wake up at 2 in the morning and find her downstairs, lights dim, face lit only by her phone but the moment she heard my footsteps. She'd switch screens like I wasn't supposed to see what she was doing. I told myself to trust her. I told myself marriage needed patience. But patience becomes painful when the person you love stops trying. Even small things changed. She forgot my birthday. She didn't forget it, she ignored it. No message, no call, nothing. When I came home, she barely looked up and said, "Oh, right. Happy birthday," like she was commenting on the weather. That was the day I realized something inside her had already begun to rot. And I was the only one pretending not to smell it. The strange thing about falling apart is that the people around you often notice it before you do. I kept convincing myself that Liana was just stressed, that we were going through a rough patch. But the world around me, it didn't, by the lie I was selling myself. It started with small comments at work. My coworker Rowan Talmir pulled me aside one morning. He's usually the kind of guy who jokes even during a fire drill. But that day his voice was heavy, serious, almost careful. "Eldrin, you okay, man? You don't look like yourself lately." I shrugged it off, told him I was fine, told him marriage just had its phases. But he didn't smile. He didn't tease me. He just looked at me like he knew something I didn't. "Look, I don't want to interfere," he said quietly. "But if things feel wrong, protect yourself. Don't wait for the explosion." I laughed it off back then. I shouldn't have. The warnings kept coming. My sister Lysandra called me one night. She didn't even bother with small talk. Eldrin, listen. I don't like the way Liana talks to you lately. Something's off. I'm telling you, get a lawyer before she blindsides you. A lawyer? The word felt ridiculous. Me. The man who had built a life with his wife? The man who still believed she just needed time? But the more people spoke, the heavier the fear settled in my chest. I started noticing things I had ignored before. Liana hiding envelopes, deleting messages the second her phone buzzed, holding whispered conversations on the balcony like she was planning a crime. One morning, Rowan looked me dead in the eyes and said, Eldrin, I'm begging you. Hire a divorce lawyer. Do it before she does. I laughed then. I didn't laugh later. The moment everything shattered didn't arrive with a scream or a fight. It arrived quietly, like a knife slipped between ribs, silent, precise, deadly. I remember that evening too clearly. I came home early because a meeting got canceled. I thought maybe surprising Liana would soften the tension between us. I thought maybe we'd sit down, talk, laugh the way we used to. But fate had a different surprise waiting for me. As I walked down the hallway, I heard her voice soft, low, almost sweet in a way she hadn't spoken to me in months. She was in the bedroom door half closed, unaware that I was home. I paused, just for a second, and that second ruined me. Yeah, it's all going according to plan, she whispered. A pause. A giggle I hadn't heard in forever. Yes, the papers are ready. Another pause. No, he has no idea. He still trusts me. My heart stopped. I felt my pulse beating hard in my throat. Papers plan? No idea? The words didn't fit until they did. Then she said the words that punched the breath out of my lungs. Don't worry. I chose you for a reason. I froze, because she had never spoken that gently to me in months. My fingers trembled as I stepped back. I wasn't ready to hear more, but I couldn't move. I stood there, suffocating in the doorway of my own life, listening to my wife plotting a future I wasn't welcome in. When she ended the call and stepped out, she nearly screamed, seeing me standing there. Eldrin, what are you doing home? I wanted to ask 100 questions. But all I could manage was one. What papers, Liana? Her face drained of color. And that silence. That silence confirmed everything I was afraid of. If the call had been with a stranger, maybe the pain would have been softer. Betrayal from a distant face hurts. But betrayal from someone woven into your life hits like a hammer. I didn't know that yet. Not until the next morning. Liana claimed the call was work stuff, and the papers were just documents from her office. I didn't believe a single word, but I needed proof. Something solid. So when she left for a lunch meeting, I sat in the living room staring at her tablet on the coffee table. She rarely used it, and she never logged out. My hand shook as I opened it. Part of me hoped I'd find nothing anything, so I could pretend I was wrong. But life doesn't always offer mercy. The first thing I saw was the message thread. The name on top nearly made me drop the tablet. Keller Brandt. My childhood friend. My brother in everything but blood. The man I trusted with my secrets, my struggles, my happiness. The man who stood beside me at my wedding. The man who was now sending heart emojis to my wife. I opened the chat. The messages stabbed like ice. Once we finish this, he's out. I can't wait to start our life without him slowing you down. Make sure he doesn't see the lawyer papers. I'll handle the rest. And then a picture. Liana smiles, soft, bright, alive, the kind she hadn't given me in months, her hand resting on Keller's chest. My chest tightened until I couldn't breathe. This wasn't an affair born from loneliness. This was a partnership, plan. A betrayal carefully built by the two people I loved the most. I sat there, numb, staring at the screen, realizing the truth. I wasn't losing my marriage. I was being replaced. I didn't plan the confrontation. I didn't rehearse a single word. My body moved before my mind could catch up. When Liana walked through the door that evening, humming like nothing was wrong, something inside me snapped. She wasn't expecting me in the living room. She definitely wasn't expecting her tablet on the table, screen lit, messages wide open. Her smile dropped instantly. Sit down, I said. My voice didn't sound like my own, too calm, too cold, too steady for a man whose heart was breaking. "What is this?" I asked, pointing to the screen. She didn't even look. She just folded her arms like a child caught doing something small, not something catastrophic. "Eldrin, don't start. Don't start." I exploded. "You're cheating on me with Keller. You're planning to divorce me behind my back? You're planning to take everything I built while sleeping with the man I trusted the most." She shot up from the couch, eyes blazing. "You were never enough," she screamed. "You're boring, predictable, always playing the good guy. I needed someone who understands ambition." "I gave you everything," I said, voice shaking. "Everything." She walked closer, her face twisted with anger instead of guilt. And it still wasn't enough. Then she slapped me hard, loud, so loud it echoed in my bones. The shock stunned me. She had never hit me before, never even looked capable of it. "You don't get to play the victim," she hissed. "You don't get to trap me in this dead life." I stepped back, staring at her like I was seeing a stranger. "So the papers, they're real?" I whispered. She smirked a cruel, victorious curl of her lips. "They've been real for weeks, and you're already too late." In that moment, the woman I loved died in front of me. After the confrontation with Liana, there was only one person I needed to face: Keller Brandt, the man I once called a brother, the man whose betrayal cut deeper than hers. I told myself I was going to him for answers, maybe closure. But beneath all that, I think I wanted him to deny it. I wanted just one lie that would make everything feel less real. He opened the door with a smirk, like he already knew why I'd come. "Well," he said casually, "this took you long enough." That one sentence shattered any hope I had left. "You're sleeping with my wife," I said. "And you're helping her destroy me?" "Why, Keller? Why me?" He leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, like he was explaining a business strategy. "Because you made it easy, Eldrin. You trusted too much. You assumed loyalty was natural. It isn't." My hands curled into fists. "I would have died for you. You know that." He laughed, actually laughed. "And that's exactly why she chose me. You don't have the edge she wants. You're soft, predictable, comfortable. She outgrew you." Something inside me cracked, but I held myself together. He walked closer, lowering his voice like he was giving advice. "She doesn't want a good man. She wants a winner. And right now, that's me. So stop embarrassing yourself and sign whatever she sends you. You'll save us all time." "The plan was to blindside me," I said quietly. Keller shrugged. "She wanted the house. And she wanted to make sure you didn't fight for it. Or her. Honestly, man. Just accept you lost." His arrogance burned hotter than any anger I'd felt before. As I walked away, shaking with fury, one thought kept echoing in my mind. This wasn't just betrayal anymore. This was war. For days after facing Keller, I felt hollow, like someone had scooped everything out of me and left nothing but echoes. I moved through the house like a ghost, replaying every memory, every joke, every moment of trust I'd shared with him and Liana. Betrayal hurts. But betrayal by your own people, that breaks something deeper. I thought I had two options: fall apart or fight. And falling apart wasn't going to give me my life back. The turning point came when I found a voicemail on my phone, one Liana sent to her lawyer by mistake. Her voice was sharp, cold, dripping with entitlement. "Make sure Eldrin loses the house. And the accounts? I want him out with nothing. He'll be too emotional to fight back." That was the moment I felt something switch inside me, a kind of clarity, a coldness I didn't know I was capable of. So I made a call I never imagined I would have to make. I contacted Varys Hale, a lawyer known for her reputation of turning battles into bloodbaths. People said she was ruthless, terrifying, and brilliant. I needed someone exactly like that. When I walked into her office, she studied me silently, like she was scanning for weaknesses. "Tell me everything," she said. I did. Every detail, every message, every slap, every plan. She didn't react emotionally. She simply picked up a pen and said, "They made one mistake. They underestimated you, and that is going to cost them." For the first time in weeks, I felt my spine straighten. I felt breath return to my lungs. I felt something rise inside me that had been buried under the weight of heartbreak. Not anger, not hate, resolve. If they wanted war, I was finally ready. Once Ferris Hale took over, everything inside me shifted. I stopped begging for answers. I stopped asking for reasons. I stopped looking for pieces of the old Liana. The man who once tried to save the marriage, he died the moment she plotted my destruction. And from those ashes, a colder version of me rose. I didn't confront Liana again. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I went silent, dangerously silent. And silence terrified her. I watched her from across the house, moving nervously, checking her phone constantly, whispering with Keller like they were waiting for me to explode. But I didn't. I moved like a man with nothing left to lose, and that alone was enough to shake them. Every time she tried to provoke me, I answered with a calm she couldn't understand. Eldrin, we need to talk. No, we don't. You can't just ignore me. I can, and I will. She wasn't used to this version of me. She needed the old Mitha, emotional Mitha one she could manipulate. But now every tear she faked, every insult she threw, every slam of the door, none of it touched me. Because while she was busy trying to control the emotional battlefield, Varys and I controlled the legal one. Documents were filed quietly. Evidence was arranged meticulously. Every message, every call, every detail of her affair with Keller was organized into a perfect structure one, designed to collapse everything she was fighting for. I remember Varys looking at the files and saying, "She thinks she's building a future with him. She doesn't realize she's building a case for you." Meanwhile, Keller started panicking. His late-night visits stopped. His calls grew shorter. His arrogance began to crack. And every time they looked at me, they saw something they hadn't expected. A man who was no longer their victim, but their karma. The courtroom was silent the first time I walked in. My chest tightened not from fear, but anticipation. This wasn't just a room filled with people. It was the stage where the betrayal of my life would be laid bare, piece by piece. Liana entered with Keller behind her, the same smug faces I had burned into memory. They thought this was their victory march. Varys Halla had been preparing for weeks. Every text, every call, every hidden account, they were ready. I sat back, silent, letting the storm build. Then she started, Liana, speaking with practiced confidence, presenting herself as the victim. Keller added details, trying to appear supportive, clever. They smirked, expecting me to crumble. But when Varys stood, the room shifted. Calm, cold, precise, began revealing everything. "Your Honor," she said, "the plaintiff's wife and her accomplice intentionally deceived him for financial gain. Every document, every message, every account proves premeditation." Screens lit up with the damning evidence. Texts, photos, even recordings of conversations, Liana's voice, Keller's manipulations. Their expressions faltered. Every confident smirk dissolved into panic. Liana opened her mouth to deny, but Varys's next words hit like a hammer. "These records are irrefutable. The marriage was sabotaged intentionally, and any claims she makes against Mr. Vaylor are void." Keller's jaw clenched. I could see the arrogance draining from him, replaced by fear. The judge didn't pause. "The court finds in favor of the plaintiff. Mrs. Morell is to forfeit all claims to property, and any financial demands are dismissed." Time seemed to freeze. Liana's face went pale. Keller slumped, defeated. The woman who had laughed at me, the man who had betrayed me, they were exposed. And as I left that courtroom calm and unshaken, I realized something vital. This wasn't just victory. This was karma served cold. The aftermath hit faster than I imagined. Liana's confident facade crumbled completely. People who once envied her, praised her charm, now looked at her with suspicion. Whispers followed her everywhere. Friends, colleagues, even family. The carefully curated life she had built began collapsing like a house of cards. Every smile she had once wielded to manipulate was now returned with cold, judging eyes. Keller's arrogance didn't last a day longer than hers. His friends, who had respected him for his charm and influence, learned about the affair and betrayal from every angle. His reputation was shredded. His career, built on false confidence, started cracking. Worse, the woman he claimed to love, the real Keller's wife, discovered the entire story. Divorce papers hit him like a thunderclap. Custody battles erupted. And suddenly he understood what it felt like to lose everything. Meanwhile, I watched quietly. Not with gloating, not with hatred, but with the calm of someone who had endured fire and emerged forged. The world had realigned. The people who tried to control, cheat, and humiliate me were now powerless. The ones who had laughed at my heartbreak, confident I'd never fight back, were exposed. The irony was sharpest in their eyes. Every attempt at power they had taken from me now returned to them, broken and bitter. Liana could no longer command anyone's sympathy. Keller could no longer command anyone's respect, and I had reclaimed everything with nothing but strategy, patience, and an unshakable resolve. It wasn't just a victory in court. It was a lesson in life, a truth everyone eventually learns. Betrayal might seem strong, but karma is patient, and when it arrives, it leaves nothing intact. The dust settled. The courtroom drama, the betrayals, the fights, the long nights of anxiety, they all became echoes of a past life I barely recognized. For the first time in months, I felt the air around me lighter, almost like I could breathe freely again. The weight I had been carrying, the weight of being deceived by the people I loved most, was gone. I moved into a new apartment, a quiet space of my own, minimal and calm. The walls didn't hold memories of lies or whispered plans. Everything felt deliberate, intentional, and mine. Every morning, sunlight filled the room, unfiltered, unmanipulated. And I realized how long it had been since I had woken up without tension gnawing at my chest. I kept thinking about Liana and Keller, not with rage, not with revenge, but with clarity. Their choices had defined their downfall. Their betrayal was their prison, and I had been lucky enough to step free. I didn't need them. I didn't need their approval, their love, or their control. Instead, I embraced the life I had reclaimed, my work, my friends, and most importantly, my own sense of self. I learned to trust, not blindly, but wisely. I learned that love, respect, and loyalty are earned, not assumed. And in that calm, I understood the true lesson. The people who betray you often destroy themselves. The universe has a way of balancing the scales. My heart, once shattered, healed not because of revenge, but because justice had its way, and I stepped forward, unbroken. I smiled, truly, for the first time in a long time, not at them, not at their fall, but at myself, at the man who had survived, endured, and finally reclaimed peace. Sometimes winning isn't about hurting them, it's about saving yourself. And that I had done.